Hey everyone! The video is finally here. The video where I show you everything I colored and painted in January, the first month of this year. If you are watching my coloring videos, you know that I revel in using mixed media like colored pencils, watercolors, and oil pastels all together, and January was no exception. During this video, you will notice that some of the pages have a Patreon logo somewhere on the screen. That means that they were created specifically for the Fellowship of the Coloring Cats. This is how I call our community. And if you don't know yet, I run an art academy on Patreon called Nekosimi Art Academy. And I just launched the watercolor section. The main goal of this academy is to teach you how to use various media in coloring books. There are already videos and posts for colored pencils, like 70 Prismacolor color combos using only 3 pencils, or special color combos specifically for hummingbirds, or lessons on 4 different techniques for coloring flowers, and so on. At this moment, I'm able to create 1 or 2 academy videos a month, but besides that, there are still regular videos on a weekly basis, which are usually coloring book color alongs, or painting, or some tips and tricks from the whole world of coloring books and art. And I'm still working on improvements, which means for this moment, more spoken instructions in those videos. And by the way, the academy videos are mostly with spoken instructions. And also, don't forget that all my YouTube edited videos are now also uploaded as full real-time coloring videos. Those videos are a little bit different than other color alongs I have in the fellowship because I filmed them for YouTube purposes. However, I noticed increased demand for more informations about the process, so that's why I included a list of used colors into the videos, and some of these videos also have a bonus video where I share everything I remember about the techniques and used colors. But newly, starting with my next videos, those informations will be included directly within the videos themselves, so the full versions will be more useful as color alongs. Unfortunately, adding all of this takes me about a full day of work to complete, and doing it for YouTube alone isn't sustainable in the long run. So that's why I offer it for Patreon. Alright, let's finally look at those finished pages, and I would be delighted to know which of those pages are your favorite. So let's begin, and I will start with the Shooting Star coloring book, in which I still have this work in progress page, so hopefully I will get into it very soon and finish it. But there is also a completed page, and it's this golden flower. And as usually, I was using a whole bunch of various colored pencils, but I remember that for the gold flower I was using mostly polychromos, but I'm not very sure at this moment if I used only polychromos or if I used some other brands as well. But for the rest of the page, I was using other brands for sure. And yeah, the background as usually with watercolors, and I did nothing complicated, just some blue and gold colors blended to each other, and with this splatters and with this effect that I really like. The glowy like effect is simply by adding Posca pens or any other acrylic paint pen, and I especially like to use the Posca Pastel set because its pale colors are just perfect for highlights. Let's continue with Magical Worlds by Johanna Basford. And I'm not sure whether I did this page in January or if I finish it in February, but it doesn't matter. I will show the page to you now and the next month as well, probably. For the main illustration, I was using Woomer pencils. Those are new colored pencils I had the opportunity to try, and I will be doing a review video on them, so I'm not gonna reveal any thoughts now. I just say that those pencils are quite oily and harder, so it caused that I had to push much harder on the paper, which later led to all those bumps, especially on the pencil work. Anyway, I really like the colors, especially on the background. It looks really magical, and with the same technique as I used in Maria Trolle's coloring book, I did the watercolor background, only with different shades of green and gold. And on top of all of that, I was using Karolina, which are metallic watercolors, to add some elements on the background and to add a little bit of spark. The second page in this coloring book is The Dreamer's Palace. And yeah, it's again watercolors for the background and colored pencils for the main illustration. If you look really closer, you may see that there is a hidden illustration behind the background. I covered that intentionally because I wanted to have the full focus on the palace, and that's also why I did the shading around and covered everything that was out. What I really like on this picture is the glass effect, and I was using a white acrylic paint pen, I guess, and white Prismacolor. And basically how you can do it is that you apply a lot of paint on your glass, and then you smudge it with your finger. If you want to see how I did it, you can check out the YouTube video for the stylized version or my Patreon for the full version. Also, I really like how a few of those little stars can add a spark to the whole page. And of course, in the original illustration, there is no moon, but I wanted to have a moon on this picture, so I did a sketch, then I covered that with masking fluid, and then I did the background. Speaking of Woomer pencils, of course, I already did a swatch chart or swatch page. Well, I swatched all of them, all of the 72 pencils. So here you can see all the colors. And I tested them in action, not only in the coloring book, but in my sketchbook as well. So I drew some of the miniatures, of which I am very happy with how they turned out. And yeah, I don't draw with pencils very much, but I really enjoyed that. On the other hand, as I already mentioned, the Woomer pencils are hard, at least for me, so it took a little bit more effort than I would wish for. I think the work with Prismacolors is more enjoyable for me. However, the result is really nice, and it made me think about drawing more with colored pencils. And so I took my Prismacolors and tried to draw more. And here are some of my drawings that are not even finished, but I just felt the mood for drawing with colored pencils. You can see that it's not even finished. Here is another picture that, I messed up the cat and lost the motivation to finish the page, so it's unfinished. Maybe someone in the future I will get back to it and fix it, but for now I am happy with what I have, and maybe I will draw more. Even though colored pencils are amazing for drawing and coloring and everything, when it comes to drawings, I really love to use my oil pastels. And to this point, I have several brands. I have Lightwish oil pastels, which I used on this page. I also have a full set of 120 oil pastels by Moongyo, and I use them on this page. And then I have the Artichoke oil pastels and then some other brand from AliExpress, but I haven't used them. They feel very hard, so they just wait for another opportunity. And this page is also done with Lightwish oil pastels. As you can see, the pictures are of the similar theme with both pencils and oil pastels. Only with oil pastels, it was so much faster. Speaking about oil pastels, I have a page in the coloring book by Karolina Kubikowska, and it's this fox. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing this page because I used all kind of media on it. So I was using the watercolors for the background. Of course, there is no circle in the original illustration, so I drew it because I wanted to have a theme of eclipse. Then I was using colored pencils on the fox. And yeah, you can see all those highlights, those are done with Posca pens. And in the end, I took oil pastels and I did all these swirls and curly fur, and I just blended the fox more into the background with oil pastels, and I made it a little bit more fiery. So yeah, it's a very dramatic picture. The only thing I'm not that happy about are these sun rays, which I realized when I already started that I was supposed to make them curved and it would look more natural. But overall, I love this picture. Yeah, and all those splatters are done with acrylic paint pen. So this page is a beautiful example of how you can apply various media on one page, and it really can work all together. Let's take a look into the coloring books by Hanna Karlzon, and let's start with this one, with this coloring book. And this is a brand new coloring book in my collection, which was sent to me by one of my coloring cats from Patreon. So I want to thank you, Kimberly, for sending me this beautiful book. I'm very grateful and very happy to have it, and I hope we will color together many and many pages from this book. So let's look what I have already colored in this coloring book. I did this double page. Well, actually, the right side is not finished yet, but I already did the background. I think I could use colored pencils to define the shadows more, so it will create a bigger 3D effect. And I plan to use some gold metallic watercolors for all those lines, but who knows, maybe I will use some different color. I will probably color the ring first and then I will finish the background. But yeah, we will see. Hopefully I will finish the page soon because I'm so excited about it and I really love the background. And the page on the left, this was actually colored for Kimberly as a thank you for sending me this book. And I so enjoyed that because those cats are just so adorable. You know, I am the big cat lover. Anyway, I wanted to make the theme a little bit more galactic. Well, my first thought about this page was more like a night scene with glowing elements, glowing grass and flowers, lily pads and so on. However, it turned up like this. And yeah, I like the page. I wanted to add a little bit of different elements. I don't know, those leaves just reminded me of fire. So I thought that I could color them in fire colors, which could also indicate the barrier between the cats and the frog. So yeah, in the end you can really think about this page, right? Yeah, and I love all those stars. Those little stars really add a magic into the page. And I'm always so amazed that so little really is enough to add a magic and sparkling elements. But that's not all. I also colored this page, and this also didn't turn out as I wanted. My initial idea was to have like really deep dark red, something like wine red color with all black. So yeah, it would be really dramatic. However, it's a little bit more towards the orange colors, but I like it anyway. Even though this page was a real struggle for me, and I am explaining and talking about this and talking about the struggle in the bonus video on my Patreon, but even though it was really a struggle, I learned so much from this page. Because you know, if you already think that you messed up the page, then why you don't use it to experiment, right? So I used it for experiments, and yeah, as usually I did the watercolored background. I was using pencils for the main illustration and acrylic paint pen for all those highlights and for the lightnings. However, on top of that, I was using also oil pastels and soft pastels in pencils. And I mean real chalk in pencil. So yeah, it was really a nice experience because I got to use those mediums and especially those soft pastel pencils. Because yeah, I have two whole set, one by Faber-Castell and the second by Stabilo, and I have never used them. And for what I was actually using them? Well, basically for the shadows and for emphasizing the color of the background. I was actually using yellow and red and black soft pastel pencils to cover the whole area. And then I was also using the black soft pastel pencil for the shadows under the lightnings. And the oil pastel, I was using only black oil pastel and I used it for all the shadows around the apples and here around the leaves. So even though it didn't bend as I wanted, I'm very happy for this page. In Witch's Cottage, I completed only one page and it's this wand. And yeah, it's so surprising how it turned out. Actually, when I was doing the background, it was a little bit plain without all those highlights, you know. But once I added those spirals and stars, it somehow like came to life. Even though I had no idea what I'm doing at the beginning, when I was starting the first swirls, I thought like, well, maybe I just ruined the whole page. And I was already thinking how I will fix it. Fortunately, fixing wasn't needed. And yeah, here we have a beautiful and simple page. I think this was the fastest page I ever colored. It took only like 2 or 3 hours to finish. And the most of the time took the background, of course. Let's stay with watercolors for a little while. And I have 2 of my sketchbooks here. And I don't actually remember what all I colored in them. I do some notes, yes, but I only write down like paintings in my sketchbooks. Yeah, so here we are. I think I did this page, but I'm not really sure. It's possible that I painted this in December. And then I have this page and it's the same. I'm not sure if it was January or December. However, this page was done with Moongyo watercolors and yeah, the result is pretty decent. It's not the same as working with White Nights. I see that the pigments are not that strong, but for the price and for the amount of paints you get, it's really affordable and decent. My newest page is this one and I did this last week, I think. Yeah. So I just needed to paint something comfortable, something that will be quick. So I painted mountains as I usually do. And then I have this unfinished page. This is only a base for the whole picture and here should be some lake. And here in the background there are some trees, you know, in the mist. So I would like to make the horizon more defined and do something like an island in the middle and define some of those trees. In my second sketchbook, there are also some drawings, and I know that, yeah, I actually started to paint these sketches. These are both scenes from Howl's Moving Castle, and yeah, I started this one. It's not finished, obviously. Hopefully, I will get back to it. I have those sketches for maybe a year now. So this is really a long-term project. I know I did some page in between. I should also finish the deer. Finally. Oh, yes! I think I did those pages. Well, this could be from December, but this is recent. This is from January, and yeah, same as with the colored pencils and oil pastels, I wanted to try some miniatures with watercolors. So here we are. Here we have some galaxy, some night scene. I don't know if it's sunset or sunrise, something like that. Yeah, and I really like this picture as well. Then I think I have those two pages as new. So yeah, this was just something quick I wanted to fill on the page. And I really enjoyed those two miniatures. And then I have these 4 pictures and I really like the progress. I painted those 3 in one go, and then the last one a week after I finished those, or a week or 2. And I really like as I went from this dreamy scene through the galaxy to the mountains and to the stormy and depressed mountains. And as you can see, I am almost finished with this sketchbook. Well, I have few more pages to finish in front of the sketchbook, but that's okay. I think I will be able to finish it quite soon. And finally, all my pictures in Kerby Rosanes books. Actually, the page from Fragile World is from December, but I realized that I forgot to show it in the last finished pages, so I'm showing you the page now. And yeah, again, watercolors in action for the background and for the water, and then some pencils for the hippo. And also I think I was using pencils for the water as well to define shades and so on. Actually, at first I didn't want to have a pink hippo, but as usual it just turned out to be like that. I was also using white gouache to indicate the water on the hippo, and I think it really adds something extra to the page. And the colors overall are quite unusual, right? Or is it just me? I think I felt really creative in January and I did this dreamy bird in Imagimorphia. And again, if you look closer, there are some elements on the background that I covered. And I also covered all the trinkets and all the gold on the bird. And I think it's much nicer like that. But of course, that's just my opinion. I just don't like all those hidden objects and doodles on the illustrations. So that's why I always cover that. Anyway, I was using watercolors for the background, colored pencils and acrylic paint pens for the main illustration, and oil pastels actually. I was using oil pastels for darkening the edges and corners. I also used it for the glow of the stars. And here we have the worlds within worlds, and this is actually an old page. I already colored and did a video on coloring this page, but if you can remember, I did it with a black background and with kind of dull and stormy sky inside the helmet, and I really didn't like this page. I was so unhappy, and this was the only page I was still thinking about, and I was so annoyed and bothered, and I couldn't get over the fact that I left the page as it was. But until this day I had no idea how I could fix it, because I did the background with acrylic paint pen, so there were no chance to apply colored pencils, soft pastels, watercolors. I could only add more acrylic paints, and yeah, I could do that, and I could do some galaxy on the background. However, I really don't like acrylic paints. I found out my dislike for acrylics right after I did the background with black. So yeah, it was kind of an unhappy situation. However, now when I'm using oil pastels, I realized I can use oil pastels on top of that, because oil pastels, they just work on every surface. So I tried that and it really worked, and now I'm so happy with this page. This is a piece I'm really proud of. And actually I was so thrilled about oil pastels that I used them on this double page. However, I finished it in February, so this will be in another video. Alright, that's all for this video, and if you wanna see more of what I colored, check out the playlist that just showed up on the screen. Have a meow someday, and bye bye!